things. She said they did not agree on most things, and he would have recognized that if he asked her any questions about herself. He attempted to kiss her, but she avoided it, and they never saw each other again. This video is not sponsored, so I just wanted to take a quick little break to kind of talk about some random housekeeping stuff. So every Sunday I have this ritual where I get like dressed to the nines and I go to a cafe and I write. I'm kind of like control freaky about it. I think about my outfit all week, and then I didn't want to ruin my outfit with a backpack. And so this brand, Teddy Blake, sent me a bag. They actually didn't ask me to talk about them, but I've been so happy with the bag that I just wanted to shout them out. It fits my laptop, and I really like the way that it goes with my outfits, so I'll leave a link to them in the description. Maybe other people will like it too. The other thing is that I have a Patreon that I'm like pretty active on, but I would say take advantage of it now. Like, get on there. We're meeting a lot of really cool people, a lot of really bright people. On the first level, you get access to a bunch of articles without paywalls that we discuss in the comments. At the second level, you can join our book club. We have a book club that we meet up with every month. We vote on the book, and we've been having some really cool discussions. Soon we'll be meeting up to discuss East of Eden by John Steinbeck. And at the top level, you can join the Writers Club, and you can send me about 1,000 words of writing that you put together yourself, and I will give you a personalized edit. Obviously, that last level is what takes me the most time, so I might not be able to do it so frequently in the future. So as I said, take advantage of it while you can. I think that it's a pretty cool perk. My Patreon plans are very affordable. I wanted them to be. And if you want to follow along for free, I also have a newsletter that you can sign up for on my website, Siobhan Breyer. That's SIOBHANBRIER. So, while Vera was on the app, she made a note of a few patterns in what conservative men on this application were searching for in their dating life. Here are some of those patterns. Men who called themselves MAGA bros, men who described themselves as European, looking for their submissive European dream girls. Vera had European in quotes, so I presume they were not actually from Europe, but were rather white Americans looking for submissive white wives. Multiple people labeled themselves on their profiles as white supremacists. Vera met multiple men who believed that women should not have the right to vote. On a few profiles, she saw men who compared the violence on January 6th with how violent they are in bed. Many considered themselves conspiracy theorists. Various men clarified on their profiles that they believe in two genders only. Many profiles used the word pureblood, meaning that they are not vaccinated against COVID-19. Multiple profiles mentioned a hatred of women with pink hair. Many profiles designated themselves as anti-feminists. Vera says that she asked her matches about their relationship expectations and family values, and she writes, quote, "Each man seemed to know exactly what he was looking for in a wife and articulated it before we even met. She was typically an unvaccinated Christian white woman willing to quit her job and commit to homeschooling children. Her hobbies might include tending to a garden and feeding the animals." She says that in her full year of dating conservative men, she never paid for a date, so she gives them credit for that. She wore things like floral dresses and cardigans on dates so as not to blow her cover. She says that a lot of the men she dated worked in finance and actually made a good living. Many of them came from educated backgrounds and even maintain a public image with their friends and coworkers in New York as generally liberal people. Then they go home and get on the internet and have neo-Nazi beliefs. But they learn how to hide that so that they aren't rightfully ostracized. Another date that Vera had was with a man whom she called Tom. They met up outside of St. Patrick's Cathedral, and she found him sitting on the steps wearing a tweed suit and reading a paperback book. Vera describes the scene. Quote, "Veronica," Tom said, standing up and slipping his book into his jacket pocket. He offered me his hand to go up the stairs like a prince ready to catch me if I lost my balance. Although I walk up 5 flights to my apartment every day, sometimes while carrying heavy things, I placed my palm in his. It's so refreshing to meet someone open to doing this instead of drinking at a bar, he said. That part felt nice for me too. Close quote. Tom informed Vera that he's not religious, but he would like his kids to have biblical values. Some of his more conservative beliefs may have come from the fact that when his mother died from cancer in high school, the women in his church cooked food for him and his father and took care of him in that way. Vera asked Tom about a term that she had seen online among women who called themselves anti-feminists. The term was biblical patriarchy. Tom responded by reciting from memory the verse in the Bible that calls on women to submit to their husbands. Quote, "Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church." Close quote. Tom continued, quote, Women should be submissive to their husbands, and some people believe they should be trained, close quote. This is again on date 1. Vera remembered that she had seen on Tom's profile that he was anti-white genocide, so she asked him if his future wife had to be white. He replied, quote, I believe on principle that white people have a right to maintain a positive identity and our collective well-being must be maintained with healthy families. White guilt is poisoning kids, close quote. So, not what she asked, but I think we can take that as a yes. On another date, Vera describes meeting a man whom she calls Brian. She says she wore a long black ribbed dress and met him at a wine bar. When she met him, he put his hand on her lower back and said, I love that you dressed up for me. She asked him what he looked for in a relationship. He replied, emphasizing that he's looking for a woman willing to fulfill her natural feminine roles. Vera asked what he thinks is the natural masculine role, and Brian replied by saying, quote, a real man provides discipline, and any talking back or acting out is asking for punishment, close quote. Vera asked, besides obedience, what does a real man need to feel loved? And he said, quote, the feminists convinced women to be dominant. Where's the love in taking away a man's masculinity? Love isn't always in the cards when people don't know their roles. I'm trying to make enough money to support a family, which means I need someone who can be home and take care of everything there, close quote. So his position is that he is not yet making enough money to support a family, but he's trying to, and for that reason he deserves to be with a woman who doesn't have a job and takes care of his home. I wonder if he would accept in her place a woman who stays home and tries to cook and clean, but falls short. It's almost like he's holding her to a standard of dichotomous gender roles that even he himself is incapable of meeting. On another date, Vera describes meeting a man who it sounds like was drinking a lot. When she asked him why his last relationship came to an end, he said, quote, my previous girlfriend killed our child, close quote. Vera said, like she's in jail for murder? Her date replied, no, but she should be. She got an abortion and killed our child without asking me. Vera went on a date with a man in his 40s whom she called Ron. He told her that he's passionate about funding women's health clinics. Vera said, like Planned Parenthood? He replied, that's funny, and explained that he was talking about crisis pregnancy centers, which are centers that typically have religious affiliations that target pregnant women to encourage them to not have abortions, sometimes through sharing medically incorrect information designed to frighten the women. Vera continues, quote, when I asked Ron how many abortions he'd prevented with his donations, he said, over 1,000. When I asked how many of those women died as a result of their pregnancy, he said, if they picked up a Bible, God would show mercy. Vera describes another date by writing, quote, at a chic omakase place, Matthew, with an asterisk to show that his name has been changed, 25, from New Jersey, was going off about how we should have never let a woman be head of the Secret Service. With each course, I fired off questions about his upbringing. He mentioned online groups where there were others like him, the kind where people whose radical to me beliefs find validation, and even more than validation, identity itself. Matthew later revealed that he has a swastika tattoo.
And I was like, what is it? And he was like, well, what do you think it is? And I was like, it looks like a swastika. He was like, yeah.
This wasn't in the article, but in interviews, Vera explains that Matthew brought her to a political meeting. She says that as a journalist, she can't call this meeting a neo-Nazi meeting because they didn't call it that in her presence. Matthew instead presented this group to her as a meeting of free thinkers. But when she got to the meeting, the people there didn't discuss politics at all and instead complained about their girlfriends and wives and offered each other tips as to how to train their partners to be more submissive. The following few sentences are describing some triggering stuff for domestic violence if you want to skip ahead. One man complained that his girlfriend kept breaking his rules by going out in co-ed groups, even though he had prohibited that behavior from her. So the other men in the group gave him tips to make her obey him. These tips included things like withholding money from her, not acknowledging her existence for 48 hours, and implementing a punishment and reward system. They described how he could force her to have sex with him if she refused. Vera offers her own brief interpretation for what may have led these men to fringe political ideologies. She writes, quote, a lot of my dates seemed to express that they felt lost without a solid definition of what a man is, and even if they did feel like they checked all the boxes for some specified male roles, they still felt like they were getting left behind. Many of their ideologies seemed to be built on this perceived rejection and a desire to revert back to how things used to be. A conclusion I came to is that these men feel like most people, including the mass media, don't take the time or have no interest in taking the time to understand them or where they come from. Valid or not, this seemed to compound their feelings of isolation, which in turn bred a lack of curiosity on their part, furthering their own intolerances. Close quote. In the article, Vera ultimately comes to the conclusion that she would not be able to date anyone with alt-right political beliefs, and she admits that she struggled to even feel sexual attraction to them. Quote, "I didn't feel that any of the men I dated were that interested in me as a person or where I came from either. I rarely got questions like, why are you Republican curious? What drew you to our dating app? What are your family values? I wondered for a while if this was supposed to be my role. Should I have helped them create a framework for approaching relationships with more curiosity, one that might ultimately lead them toward a more inclusive kind of mindset? Maybe, but it was never my intention to save these men from their hatred. Plus, after all these dates, I started to answer my own questions. I was too different from them, even if that was due to circumstance and upbringing, in ways that made romantic or sexual attraction impossible. Despite my willingness to be open to anything, none of my dates progressed beyond talking." Close quote. In interviews, Vera summed up her experience by saying,
"They're the most insecure men I've ever sat down with. It was really difficult to have some of these dates because they were so insecure, because they don't really know who they are and they don't know how to figure that out."
Before we move on, I must again mention that Vera had a very strict safety protocol when going on these dates. This isn't an experiment that you should try at home, as it were. My biggest critique of this article is that I felt like Vera struggled to define the purpose of this study. In the subheading, she poses the question, have extreme political ideologies divided the dating pool? In paragraph 3, she says she went on these dates in an attempt to not just date, but also understand men in the alt-right. In paragraph 4, she says she wants to figure out where they were coming from and to see if they were misunderstood. But then in paragraph 5, she kind of changes her tune slightly, and she writes, quote, "As politics in our country grows more divisive, as the internet fuels hardline cultural ideologies and social discord, as like-minded communities double down on rejecting anything different, is it possible for romantic connections between contrasting groups to even exist? Could dating be a way to help forge an understanding of value systems, of experiences that drive beliefs that could start to bridge the dissonance? Or at the very least, could it teach me about my own rules of attraction? Could I ever be physically enticed by or even intimate with someone with very different political views?" Close quote. And that is a very different question. You can understand someone's political beliefs, but not necessarily want to date them. She also posed, by my count, 4 different questions in that last paragraph, which muddies our thesis and purpose. Then, around the middle of the article, which I think is late in the article to be still clarifying your objective, we get yet another paragraph stating another slightly different why. Vera writes, quote, "Part of what I was trying to explore and push back against is the idea that a person's identity can be reduced to a one-dimensional entity based solely on who they voted for. Now, more than ever, we think we can tell everything about someone on the other side just because they wear a red hat or a blue I voted t-shirt. The job I'd assigned myself was to dig deeper, to learn more about these men on the other side of me, way on the other side in most cases. And as someone who cares about bringing people together, I wondered whether it was me who had been excluding them." Close quote. So now we are not just trying to explore, but also push back against the idea that your political party defines you. I'm sure you're beginning to see how having multiple theses in our article can make it hard for us to be successful as writers. It's almost like setting too many goals for yourself, so you spread your writing thin, and instead of meeting one goal well, we struggle to meet 3 goals at all. If we distill the somewhat unclear writing, this article told me that its goals were 1, to see if we can understand people in the alt-right, 2, to see if we can fall in love with people who disagree with us politically, and 3, to push back against the idea that we can define people based on who they voted for. So to decide if this article was successful, let's look at it according to its stated goals. 1, did this article help you understand people in the alt-right better? For me personally, I would say that in some cases, yes, it could have helped, but in general, not really. I was hoping that because Vera was getting to know these people in an intimate context, she would be able to learn things about them that we couldn't learn from just interacting with them online when they might be trying to be provocative. In interviews, Vera called these people, quote, the most insecure men she had ever met, close quote. And while I think that's interesting, I also know a lot of people who are insecure who don't become Nazis.